Alright everybody, and we are back. As you can see, I did a little bit more work, but not really a whole lot. I've actually started a little bit on the deflector dish again, and actually I need to go ahead and get rid of that. I started working on the main hull. Let me see, I don't know why that is showing up. Let me go ahead and get rid of that. And there we go. One thing I was noticing, and I want to kind of get y'all's opinion on this, I am drawing everything from perspective, and as you can see, if I put this ship in the front and lower down the opacity, I mean, it's matching up very nicely. I mean, all the lines are almost right on par with each other. I mean, I don't think I could probably get it better than what it is right now. But going off of this, I don't know. What do y'all think? Let's look over here and look from the top. That saucer section, to me, that looks like that might be just a bit too oval shaped. So I'm kind of on the fence with that. I mean, my previous ship, it was a lot more rounded. I mean, it wasn't a perfect circle like the Galaxy class. I mean, not the Galaxy class, but the Constitution class. But it wasn't this, you know, oval shape. So I don't know what I'm going to be doing about that. If I lengthen it even anymore, widthwise, front to back, it's not going to match this picture no more. If I leave it just like that, it matches the picture, but it just looks like it's a little bit too wide. I just really don't know. So give me y'all's opinion on that. Otherwise I'm just going to continue pushing on with it. And oh yeah, I started working on the bottom. I'm going to kind of leave that for last. My primary deal I'm going to be doing is going by off of this picture and working on the details that I can see first. Then I'll start going in and start touching up the details that we don't see. But going back to the saucer section, if you look at it, the overall height's not too bad. If if we go by what Doug Drexler says off the Drex files, which I've actually kind of heard that his website was shut down. He actually shut it down. Apparently, something about getting some potential copyright infringements or warnings or something. Because he was putting because they were claiming that he was taking credit. Where credit was not his because he would take a picture and he would put his name on it, which I can see how some people would probably think that he was probably taking credit for or trying to take credit for something that wasn't his, but I've seen people do that before on the web. You know who you are. But not with me particularly, but I've seen certain websites where they'll take a picture that was posted on one website, they'll post it on theirs, but they'll put their name all over it to try to get people to think, oh, well, this website must have been the first one to publish it. But anyways, I'm losing subject. If we go to what Doug Drexler says, the one that actually designed or made the model that was used in the episode of Star Trek Enterprise, he says that this was 30 decks, which is makes it roughly height-wise the same height, about as big as the Sovereign class. The Sovereign was about 30 something decks almost, I believe, so maybe a little bit more. I'm sure some of y'all will definitely correct me on that, but anyways, about 30 decks for the saucer section itself, which is pretty tall. If we cut it down the middle, that's about 15 decks up on top, 15 decks on the bottom. If we count these quote unquote windows, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, room right there, 5. I don't know. I mean, that alone right there, I mean, that's potential 5 decks right there. And then we got another 5 here, another 5 there, another 5 there. I mean, that's 20 decks right there. So I really don't know how I'm going to go about that. Yeah, I'll think about it later. But yeah, so it's coming along real nicely. So it started on the primary hull. I decided to kind of give the back portion a bit of a curved shape. And I'll come back and I'll add on to this deflector dish to get this front portion. But today, I have decided I am going to get started working on the nacelles. Reason why? You can actually see quite a bit of them, and it's not really a part of any kind of ship, so I can get that done, put in another layer, be done with it. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started on that. So I'm going to bring the opacity up on this picture here just a bit. There we go, so I can get a closer look at the nacelles. Would help if I didn't have the lines in the way. I guess I can go ahead and get rid of those lines. Let's see. Okay. Almost kind of Galaxy class-ish type style buzzard scoops up in the front. Very simplistic. I'll look at another picture here. Okay. All right. I went ahead and looked at that. So I really can't say I like the way that the nacelles look, but yeah, you could see, and I'll bring the picture up here for you. You can see those nacelles. You could tell that it was quickly slapped together. I don't see how that would really work or how the technology would work on that matter. So, but that's the way he designed it. So I will go ahead and we'll model it with that. And if I want to change it again later to kind of put some of my own, my own little, how should I say, opinion on how it should look, I'll do that a little bit later. So, but yeah, let's go ahead and get started on that. Now, if any of y'all have the Ships of the Line calendar, you will recognize that those nacelles are not exactly original. If I remember correctly, those nacelles were actually borrowed from another class, which was called the Altair class. And the reasoning behind why I think that these nacelles have some similarities to the Galaxy class nacelles, because if you look at the Ship of Line calendar, and it was 2003, I believe. I think I said earlier 2010, but it was actually 2003. If you see the Altair class right alongside the Galaxy class. So if these nacelles were from the same time period of the Galaxy, that would explain it. But this is supposed to be in the 25th century, not from the same time period as the Galaxy class. So, all right, let's go ahead. I'm gonna move these two pylons over to another layer. Whoops. All right. Actually, let me bring that back real quick. Okay, and let's go ahead and line this up. And I'm going to get started on trying to model the buzzer scoop. So, yeah, it was originally these nacelles, and Doug Drexler actually came and admitted to it that he borrowed them from the Altair class. So he actually even used the Altair class with the saucer section of this ship and kind of kit bashed them together to make another ship, which some people have claimed that that might have been like the Enterprise. Well, actually, first people were putting it online saying it was the bottom view of the Enterprise J, but no, 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 no. Then people started coming in saying, well, no, it actually might have been the Enterprise H or maybe the Enterprise F, another version of the Enterprise. It was a very poorly kit bashed version of the ship, but it was another ship that I actually made myself, again, just like how I'm making the how I'm making the Enterprise J right now. So, and I might revisit that as well. So I'm going to put in a UV sphere as the base. Scale it down. Good. And let me go ahead and rotate that because I want this to be the top. Now it looks like it's a bit squashed. So we'll squash it along the Z-axis. And let's move this around a bit. And yeah, trying to get this to look right takes a bit of trial and error, but we're looks like we are getting close. Actually, I keep forgetting I can. There we go. There, that's pretty close. Now, then we'll go into, let me go ahead and get rid of this now. Whoops. First off, let me move that to, oops, that layer. And go into edit mode. Select all of these vertices here and delete those. Oh, so yes, and I made a while back ago, back in 2003, 2004, I was making a whole lot of these ships. The two ships that I made was actually I made three or four of them. One ship that I made was of course, the Enterprise J, as you see here. Completed one model, didn't like the way that it looked, started working on it again. Actually, started liking the way that one looked, but when it came time to where I was starting to try to texture it, it was a complete nightmare because I did all the orthopology wrong. And let's see, what do I want to do here? Let's go ahead and extend this out a little bit more like that. And just so there's nothing closed, there we go. And yeah, then I also did what I went ahead and I called it the Enterprise H, which is that what I was talking is a kit bash version of the Altair, primary hull with the saucer of the Enterprise J. That's not quite. Oh, actually, you know what? Let's do this. Um, well, yeah, there we go. That works. It'll all come together when I'm done. You'll see it. But it was the Enterprise H is what I called it. It's not official canon. That's what it was. Just that's what I thought it was because it looked like it fit pretty close between the J and the E at the time. So I also went ahead and created the Daedalus class. Could be wrong on that, but it was that old type ship with the spherical. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry, burping all over y'all. With the spherical hull that was in it was never really seen except for a model in the original series. Made a model of that, but the one that I did first, my first original ship that I made was for a web series, and it was I think they still have it online. I got to go check them. I did the model to completion. They looked at it, and one of the problems that I had with it was the exact same problems that I had with the second take of the Enterprise J was, what am I doing? Is that the textures really didn't quite come out right, and they hired another. I say hired. They were asking everybody to do this pro bono, so to say, because it was a web series. And they didn't have the right to be able to make these episodes, Star Trek episodes, so it was all basically for free. But I made the ship for them, and it was, I can't even remember what the class is. I still got the ship, and I actually liked the way the ship was. They wanted it to be a Romulan Federation hybrid. Like, what would happen if the Romulans and the Federation joined together, in a kind of alliance, a temporary alliance? And what type of ship would they create? What would it look like? All right. So I made that ship. They worked with it for a long time. It looked like it was going to be the go. Then they got somebody that had a lot more experience with 3D modeling than me. And oops, that's the old. Let Let me move that to a different layer. That's the old. There we go. That's close enough. Got somebody with a lot more CG experience than me. He looked at the model and he was like, the textures aren't going to work when you're up and close. And I couldn't argue with him. And when they were saying about how much time it would take to, when they needed it, basically when they said they needed it completely redone, I was like, well, I don't have the time to do that. It took me too long to make this model here. I can't get it done in time. So I left the production. We left on good terms. I don't have no. It's like for some reason I can't remember exactly what they were called, what that episode was called. I watched a few of the episodes. I actually do kind of like the new ship. In fact, the ship that they used for the episode, it actually had some features that on it. You can almost say they predicted the future, so to say, because or the past, whichever way you look at it. Because the ship that they use for this future class, surprisingly, it had some features that was very reminiscent of the new ship that we see in the new Star Trek series. Oh, what am I doing? Or not Star Trek series, but in the new Star Trek movie, which I thought was kind of cool. I looked at that, I'm like, you know what? Hey, I've seen that feature before. And I'm talking about where you have the saucer section with a big old gaping space between where the bridge sits and the rest of the crew quarters is at. So, whoops. Well, I'm going to go ahead. Apparently, right now, I'm not used to talking and chewing bubble gum at the same time. So, I'm going to go ahead and get some work done on this. Might probably put this in fast speed, maybe even not. And I'll cut back in when I get some work done on the nacelles. Okay, actually, I wanted to kind of cut back in. I like to try to get some of y'all's opinions on this. See, this is where times like this it comes into play to where how much of this should I go by exactly what I see? I mean, because it's a fine balance. I don't want to take too much of a guesses into where, okay, I think this is this and this is that, and then end up getting completely wrong just in case there ends up being a model and I look at it and be like, oh, so that's what it looked like, because it's already happened to me twice. So trying to find that balance between doing what I see and trying to interpret what I see. I mean, what is there and what I think is there. And I've been having that problem quite a bit. So it comes down to what is more practical. Let me give you a bit of example. I'm going to pull up the saucer section here. Oops. The saucer section here for a good example. Like these areas right here. To me, those seem like that those are little recessed details. I mean, they recess into the ship, and that's what I drew them as. But when I posted this on a website a while back ago, on one of my earlier, you know, versions of the ship, somebody pointed out to me saying, well, to him, those look like that those might be phaser strips, similar to how the Galaxy class has the phaser strip. Which that's a possibility, but that means that the ship has one, two, three, at least three, because you can see three strips right here. Here, you can't really see the strips very well. I mean, there's a small one right there. So there's potentially one, two, three, four here. So, I mean, that means there's seven phaser strips, phaser banks on top of that, which it seems like that might be a bit overkill, especially for a ship like this. Yes, the current strategy, it seems like that the more advanced the ship comes, the more the more weapons that it has. Regular Enterprise, it had, I believe, only just, you know, two phaser strips, I think, or is it no, three sets of phaser strips or phaser banks. Two on top, one on the bottom, and one set of photon torpedoes, if I remember correctly. Then you had the new Constitution class ship, which had a lot more of the phaser banks. It had, um, three on top, three on bottom, I believe, plus two photon torpedo tubes. And then you had the whoops. It just every single version of the ship, they get more weapons. So yeah, it's a possibility those might be phaser banks, but me personally, I just still think that's a bit overkill. So I draw them as recesses. And looking at some of the other pictures, I mean, it doesn't really clarify up any of the issues. So it's the same thing with any detail on the ship, like what is that area right there? Exactly how much do these little, I don't know what you want to call those. I think that's a part of the engines. How much of that sticks up? These hull details. How much of that is? Oh yeah, like these little deals here. I mean, what are those for? I mean, how far do they go in, or do they just slant? Is that open? You know, I don't know. Is this shadow here? This was something that somebody pointed out. This shadow shows that actually this saucer is more flat, and this goes over the saucer, so ships can fly underneath here. There's a lot of interpretation on this, and if y'all are watching this and y'all would like to go ahead and leave y'all's opinion, I mean, I like to hear what y'all would have to say. I mean, there might be some of y'all that knows a bit more about this than I do, and y'all might be able to look at this and give me y'all's opinion and sit there and say, oh well, this is. Did I lose something? Hmm. Okay. I think I might have lost one, two, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Why does this? Ah, okay. I'm gonna have to look at that a little bit later. Something happened somewhere, but anyways, yeah. Um, hmm. Okay, I'm gonna have to restart this again, but um, yeah. So let me go ahead and kind of straighten that out a little bit, and I'll be right back. Okay, to kind of cut back in, I went ahead and I took what was up at the top, deleted the bottom, mirrored the top, put it at the bottom, and combined it all. So now it's more symmetrical between the top and the bottom. So, and yeah, I'm not really going in trying to iron out, with that, trying to iron out all the major details. So, right here looking at this, I mean, you don't really see a lot of details of exactly what's going on and what type of, greebles, so to say, that is inside this. So I am not touching that right now. I'm just getting the basic look, kind of primitives, you might probably say. I mean, I had cylinders there. Now I'm, putting in more primitives to kind of iron out the shape. Kind of like when you're drawing, you draw a stick figure. If you're really, you want to draw a stick figure to kind of get the basic shape, then you put in some circles and, to signify the head, the square to signify the body so you can get the rough shape. And then you start really penciling out the details. It's kind of what I'm doing right now, is just merely penciling in the details. Now, looking at the other pictures, there's a little bit of this nacelle body that goes along the bottom, but most of it sticks out to the top to a point. Because this little blue spot, it just hangs there. It just dangles there. I don't like it, but that's what he's drawing, so that's what I'm going to go ahead and do. And I am going to go ahead and replicate this. Let's go back to my top view. And I am going to replicate both of those, and I'm going to move another one over to this side. Actually, I'm going to show you a little trick of what I do. Let me show you this. When I'm doing work like this is what I like to do. Watch this. Okay. That little spot right there, that's the center of the mesh that I'm editing. That's the center. So anything that you do, rotations, so on, rotations, not mirroring, anything is going to be based on that center. So I'm going to put the center of the mesh on that. Go into edit mode, select all of these, and oops, let me do that. Select that, edit that. What am I doing? What am I thinking? No, I don't do that. Oh, darn it. Hold up. I was not thinking. Okay. Now, I'm going to select all those and move this back over here. Now, go to this. Same thing. Select, move, bring it back over there. Look good. Now, go to a modifier, add modifier, and mirror, and there we go. Check that out. In case you can't see it. Now, let me do the same thing on this one. Add modifier, mirror, and boom, there you go. Now I have the same nacelle over here. So now anything that I edit on one side is going to show up on the other. I can edit that side over there, it'll modify itself over here, so on and so forth. Because this nacelle right here gives me a good side view. This nacelle here gives me a good top view. So now I can go ahead and tinker around a little bit more with the edits. Let me move. Yeah, see, I'm going to have to lower these just a tad. There we go. Hopefully that doesn't mess with it too much on this side. Oh, no, not terribly. So then I can tweak everything a little bit. But now I can come over here and I can see that, oops. Yeah, see, check that out. Obviously this portion right here is much fatter than what I thought it was, and this becomes a lot more rounded. So now I can sit there and go into this and why? There we go. So now I can sit there and okay. Whoops. Control R. So yeah, now I can go ahead and once again kind of mess with this a little bit. Try to get these dimensions right. So it's okay. Oh, that's just my wife. She came in, she's running or walking, one of the two. So all right. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and we're going to cut out there. I think that pretty much uses up all our time today. When I come back, I will have the nacelle finished. Instead, if you have any comments or anything that you would like to, kind of say, give me your opinion on what you think I should probably do, or, and I will definitely keep that in mind. So, I said I got a lot of, things that I need to tinker around with on some of the details in the nacelles and everything. So, but yeah, so I'll work back on that and said, please feel free to leave a comment if you would like. And when I come back in,